Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
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 You know, our portion took us from the calling of Avram to the covenant of Avraham.
Yes.
So I told you we're going to try to look at all the pieces and parts this year. I have to go a little bit quickly. Because there's kind of different sections in here. The first one would be God actually calling Abraham and sending him on his journey. He commands him to leave his own country, his own people, his own father's house, and to go to a place where he is going to show him. He makes a promise. I will make you into a great nation. That promise is threefold. He goes on and says, I will bless you and make your name great. You will be a blessing. Maybe it's fourfold because he says all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. We understand that to be the gospel because Paul explains it that way. He's 75 years old when that happens. He takes Sarai, his wife, who is also his half-sister. He takes Lot, his nephew, and everything that they own, and they go to Canaan. And Canaan is the son of Ham. And Canaan bore the curse because of what he did in Noah's tent. Whatever that was. We have no idea what it was. All right? He bore the curse, and God appears to Avram at Shechem. I taught on that just a few weeks ago. The significance of that spot in Israel. He appears to Avram at Shechem, and he promises him there, to your offspring I will give this land. So he shows him the land from Shechem, where those two mountains are, and he promises the land to him. Avram builds an altar at Shechem and Beit El, so in two different places. And Beit El, if I'm remembering right, is south of there. And he is worshiping Yahweh in front of the sons of Canaan, who are by this time very wicked. So God's called Abraham out of one wicked place into the worst wicked place. So he promises he's going to bless all the nations. And of course, we understand that there is a shadow there of the blessing that comes on the world through Yeshua the Messiah. Messiah himself being descended from Avraham. Immediately after that, he has to go down to Mitzrayim because of famine. He fears for his life because Sarai is beautiful, and so he uses a part truth and protects himself. He tells Pharaoh that Sarai is his sister, implying that he's not married to her. God sends plagues on Pharaoh, and he figures it out. He rebukes Avram and expels them, but he's got all kinds of wealth. So Avram went down into Egypt and got rich. Next thing we see in 13, verses 1 through 18, Avram returns to Canaan. He's very wealthy, and because of that, conflict arises between him and Lot because they both have gained tons of wealth. And their cattle, their ranches are so big they can't live next to one another. So Avram chooses or allows Lot to choose the land, and he chooses at the fertile field on the Yarden, where Sodom and Amorah are. I personally believe that's down in the central south piece of Israel where the Dead Sea is now. I think Sodom and Gomorrah became the Dead Sea. It was very fertile back then. Lot chose it. And God again promises all the land that you see, I'm going to give it to your offspring forever. And your offspring will be like the dust of the earth. And so he settles in Hebron and builds an altar there. And so again, Avram is building an altar and calling on God's name, Yahweh, in front of these Canaanites. What is that supposed to do? By the way, that's probably the most significant form of evangelism there is to simply worship God in his truth, in spite of what's going on around us, in spite of the fact that everybody else wants God's people to join into their worship, just mix him in with ours. And it'll all be okay. But Avram didn't do that. Hebron, by the way, is where David eventually settles, and then for 7 years, and then moves to Jerusalem for 33. In the next chapter 14, Lot has to be rescued because apparently he sold all his wealth. He sold his ranch, if you will, and he moved into the city. And he was at the gate, so he was a judge. And while he's living there, the 4 kings, led by Kedar-Laomer, so 5 kings, attack Sodom and Gomorrah and 3 other cities. And they capture Lot when they do that. Avram hears about it, and he's got 318 students, taught men that live in his house. Abraham is teaching them the Torah, I promise you. It's not written down yet. It's what he inherited by word of mouth from Adam to Seth to Enoch, and skipping a few generations down to Lamech, to Noah, to Shem, to Abraham. I personally believe Shem was Avram's personal teacher. They coexisted together. We're in the land of Shem. He moved back home when he left Ur. He came back to where Shem was. Melchizedek visits Avram after that battle, and Avram gives him a 10th part of everything, of the spoils. A 10th part is a tithe. The tithe was a thanksgiving offering to a king who protected you. Sodom offers to give it to Abraham, and Abraham says no. It's Avram still at this time. He refuses to take anything from his hand. But when Melchizedek showed up, Avram gave a tithe to him. So he's not taking away from people he protected. He's giving to the one he knows is everybody's protector. That's what the tithe is. So there's a theme of faith and obedience in chapter 15. Avram obeyed God as a result of his trust in God's promise. And this is the chapter that says it was accredited to his account spiritually as righteousness. So what does chapter 15 have in it? God appears to him in a vision. Do not be afraid. I am your shield, your very great reward. By the way, we're going to peel a lot of this later. All right, so don't worry that I'm skipping some opportunities. I'm not. Avram laments having no heir. That's what we just read. Eleazar is going to be my heir. God says, a son from your own body will be your heir. Your offspring will be like the stars. The son from Abraham's body is Isaac, but more importantly, it's Yeshua. Isaac is just the continuum. Isaac is just the beginning of the string of flesh that's going to get to Yeshua. And that's when Avram's going to be able to count his heirs like a star in reality. He has a covenant ceremony. He cuts animals in half. He lays them, basically makes a little sidewalk, a little path between the animals' pieces. And that is an ancient Canaanite covenant, and people are supposed to walk through that path together and say, let this happen to me if I don't keep this part of my part of this covenant. Abraham fell asleep. God caused a deep sleep and a dark sleep all over him, even though it was daytime. He falls asleep in a flaming torch and a fire pot. I want to explain that because some people don't understand what that is. Ancient people used to keep a fire going, embers burning in a pot so that they didn't have to relight a fire all the time. So they just constantly kept feeding moss and junk into that pot to keep the embers burning, so they would always have a lighter. And then a torch passed between the pieces. And after that, God predicts that Abraham's children will be slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And he tells him why. He sent Abraham there to do exactly what he did, to build altars and call on Yahweh's name and provoke repentance. Because guess what? Everybody knows there's a God. Everybody knows there's a creator, and they just don't want it, so they invent other stuff. And God sent Abraham to remind them of that. They didn't listen, so in his compassion, he takes his children out of there and puts them in Egypt and blesses them there, and they become a multitude there. Just like Abraham got rich there, so did they. So they're in Egypt, and God says right here in Genesis 15, the iniquity of Canaan is not complete yet. So obviously it's going to take 400 more years for it to complete itself so that it'll be justified for God to destroy them. Whereas people think that God just hated them and wanted to destroy them. And that's not what it is. In the next chapter, Sarai is childless. She decides to take matters into her own hands, and she gives Avram, Hagar, her maiden, to conceive and give Avram a son. Sarai ends up not liking her anymore, nor her son, and she tells him to leave. And this is the first time that Malach Yahweh appears in the scripture. And he appears to an Egyptian harlot. And he promises her, I will increase your descendants so much, you'll name him Ishmael. Yahweh hears, or God hears. And she calls God there El Romim. God, my shepherd, is one way that you could interpret it, but God who sees me, one who sees me. So God was both seen and heard there by an Egyptian harlot. We're going to peel that onion later too. Ishmael is born. Avram is 86 years old when he's born. And the theme in that chapter is human weakness, is fear. The theme in the last couple of chapters is human weakness. Avram fears down in Egypt, so he deceives Pharaoh. Sarah's impatient, and so she causes her husband to sin. And it was sin. So, but in all of it, God is still faithful to them. 17, this is the covenant of circumcision. So the theme in this chapter is a covenant. And it was also the theme in chapter 15 and technically in chapter 12 as well. So this is a unilateral promise from God about land and descendants and blessing. And the circumcision seals that covenant. It is a sign performed on every male born in the house of Abraham at 8 days old, including all his servants, but the people who were there. So when is it proper for an adult to be circumcised? When he missed his circumcision. If the Jewish set of parents don't circumcise their child, then he as an adult, when he realizes it, and we're going to talk about that again as well. Abraham laughs at the idea of having a child. He's 100 years old. Sarah's 90. Abraham asked for Ishmael. He loved Ishmael. And he asked for him to be his heir. And God said, no, but one out of your own loins through your wife Sarai is going to be your heir. But relax, Ishmael's going to be the father of 12 nations too. But the covenant is going to come through Isaac. He's 99 years old. When he's circumcised, Ishmael is 13, bar mitzvah age, when he's circumcised. And everybody else in the household was as well. So if you didn't catch all of them, our themes are faith and obedience, covenant, blessing to all the nations, and human weakness in the midst of covenant. So that's the summary. So let's take a deep dive now. If you have a keen eye, you can see the Messiah in almost the whole portion. Almost every part of these chapters has Yeshua hiding in the sidelines, if you will, playing a role but not being obvious. Very first words, Lekh, Lekh. As soon as I looked down this week, I thought, there's no Nikudot in a Torah scroll, and those words look exactly the same. Lamed, Chasofit, Lamed Chasofit. The only way they knew how to vowel them 3,000 years later was because of the context. But if you were just reading it, you might not know how to say it. Lekh, Lekh, Lecha, Lach, Lach. There's several different ways. For him, for her. There's many ways you can translate those letters. So this can be seen as a double or emphatic go, go. Because Lekh could have been there twice. I told you the context clears it up, but if you're starting to read it and you don't know the context, you might say that. If you look deeper, you've got Lamed Chasofit twice. Lamed is a king, and a Chasofit is an open hand. The king opens his hand, the king opens his hand. That's a blessing. That's the king receiving you, or telling you where to sit. Right? And right after that, he says, from your house, I will bless you. So if you leave your house, basically, I'm going to bless you. And then you see that king with an open hand again. The world will be blessed through you. So God is opening his hand to the whole world. He opens it to Abraham, and he opens it to the whole world. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
One king, twice the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
2 blessings, 2 gifts, 2 covenantal agreements. That's the things that we see through all these chapters. He's summoned twice before a king. So concerning the letters, Lamed is the king because it goes above the line. Whereas the open hand extended down to humankind goes below the line. Those are some of the only letters. The Lamed is the only one that is above the line. The Lamed is exaltation coming down to earth, and the Chasofit is humility receiving a gift from heaven. And we see that 2 times at the very beginning of this passage. So God took Abraham by the hand. He takes our hand through Messiah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And both are saying, come with me. So God is saying to Abraham, let me show you something. Boy, get out of Ur. We'll put you over here. And Yeshua is saying, let me show you something. Come out of darkness and come into light.
Yeah.
Lekh, Lecha, both of them individuals by themselves have a value of 50, so twice over it's 100, and Abraham was 100 years old when the promise was fulfilled. So if we said Lekh means go, and Lecha is mystical, go to the king's hand. And he's going to lead you where you're going to go. There's 1,000 ways you could look at this, guys. Go to your purpose. Go to where you are going to become something. And Yeshua says, follow me 2 times. John 1:43 and Matthew 11:21. It's the same idea. So when Avram gets to Mitzrayim in 12 verses 10 through 20, that happens. So catch this. He hears God. He's blessed. He goes. He gets to Canaan. And bam, he has to go to Egypt. God promised him blessing and abundance and an heir and eternity. And the first thing he had to go through was starvation. The threat of it. And having to leave the place where God said, I'm going to bless you there. And what does Avram do? Does he pitch a fit and get mad at God? No. He goes to Egypt. That's where he says to Sarai, play the part of my sister, even though she was his half-sister. So Pharaoh takes Sarai to his palace, but God sends plagues. Pharaoh discovers the truth. He rebukes Avram, and he kicks them out. Avram is challenged right after the blessing by famine, and then testing comes on him in Egypt. Think about this. As soon as Yeshua was clothed in the Ruach HaKodesh, when God sent the Spirit down after his immersion, the first thing God did with him was send him into the desert and starved for 40 days. It's the same thing. And then he comes back and goes to a wedding. In chapter 14, Avram meets the king. My king of righteousness, Melchizedek, my king of righteousness. He is the priest of Elyon. He is a priest of God Most High. The king of Shalem. That is, Paul tells us what that means. It does not mean Jerusalem. It means peace. Paul said so in the book of Hebrews. There was no Jerusalem yet, because years later, Abraham goes to Mount Moriah, and that's all there is the mountain. Right. We've been to that mountain, and it's surrounded by the city of Jerusalem, and it is ancient to us, but it wasn't there when Abraham saw Melchizedek. He was a different king, the king of peace. And I personally believe this is Yeshua appearing to him before he becomes a human being. Paul says about the Melchizedek in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 20, Yeshua has become the Kohen HaGadol forever, the high priest forever, in the order of Melchizedek. That is the fulfillment of a messianic king predicted by King David, who was prophesying about the Messiah, that he would be our high priest. That was our psalm that we read today. It begins, a Mizmor of David. Yahweh says to my Adon, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. And Peter used that verse to preach about Yeshua the very first time the gospel was ever declared by anyone officially in the Spirit after Yeshua rose from the dead. And that's the first thing that Peter says about Yeshua to Jewish people. Sit at my right hand. God says this to Yeshua. Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. And it's 3 verses later where David then writes, Yahweh has sworn and will not relent. You are a Kohen forever in the order of Melchizedek. Adonai at your right hand does crush kings in the day of his wrath. So in the order of Melchizedek is actually Al Divrati Melchizedek. And again, take the vowels away. According to my word, a king of righteousness. Are you with me? Word there is going to get really important later. Right? Hebrews chapter 7, Paul writes this. For this Melchizedek was king of Shalem, the Kohen of El Elyon. He's echoing Genesis there. Who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, and to whom Abraham also set aside a 10th part from the choice things he had with him. His name is interpreted, Righteous King, and, again, King of Shalem, which means King of Peace. Paul wrote that in Hebrews 7. It means King of Peace, not King of Jerusalem. Are you with me?
Gotcha. Yes.
Neither his father nor his mother is recorded in the genealogy as neither the beginning of his days nor the end of his life, but in the fashion of the Son of Man, or Son of God, in the likeness of the Son of God. So I'm clarifying what Paul said. Demut. So Melchizedek showed up in the likeness of the Son of God. It's like the same way he showed up for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like unto a son of the gods. Like the Son of God. Are you with me?
Yes.
It is Yeshua standing in front of Abraham. He doesn't know his earthly name yet, perhaps, but he knows who it is. He knows enough to give him the cut from his own, because apparently Abraham didn't take any of the booty, any of the spoils of the war. He just gave him his own wealth, apparently. Make sense? Like I said, the tithe is a tribute of thanksgiving for a valiant defense. Avram knew that he won the war because God was with him. Paul says his ministry abides forever. Melchizedek's ministry abides forever. That's what he just said.
Yeah.
In Hebrews, chapter 7, verse 3. And in verse verse 4 he says, "Now consider how great this man was, to whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth part and paid bikurim." That's Passover and Shavuot. That was the springtime tithe. For those sons of Levi who received the office of the Cohen were authorized by the Torah to take tenth parts from the people, even from their own brethren who also had come out of the loins of Abraham. But this man, Melchizedek, who is not recorded in their genealogies, took the tenth parts even from Abraham and blessed him who had received the promises. Beyond dispute, he who was less, which is Abraham, or in this case Avram, he hasn't been renamed yet, was blessed by him who was greater than himself, which is Yeshua. And here, mortal men receive tenth parts. In other words, here in Jerusalem, when Jews bring their tithe to the temple, mortal men receive tenth parts. But here, he, of whom the scripture testifies he lives, Melchizedek, receives them, implying he's not mortal. Are you with me? He's not dead. Scriptures testify that he lives. The scriptures testify that Melchizedek lives. Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
Speaking as a man through Abraham, even Levi, who received tenth parts, also gave tenth parts to Melchizedek, because they were in Abraham's loins. So our Jewish people tithed to Yeshua for 2,000 years, and they don't even realize it. Then we get to chapter 15. And our theme here is faith and obedience. Like I said, God appears, do not be afraid, I am your shield. That's what we read from the Bema. A son from your own body will be your heir. Abraham believes him, and God says he accounts it to him as righteousness. Literally, guys, it's like he had a bank account in heaven that had no righteousness in it. And God put everything he needed in regard to righteousness in that bank account in heaven. Does that make sense to you? That's kind of the language, that's what it implies. The legality, it's legal language. He has that covenant ceremony where circumcision comes in. So in that passage in Genesis 15, the Davar Yahweh came unto Avram. You guys know this. Davar, the word of Yahweh, is Yeshua. Because Davar became flesh, became a body, and lived among us. So this is the divine being that looks like a human being coming to Abraham, and he's called Davar Yahweh. The word of Yahweh came into Avram. The word left God and appeared to Abram. Are you with me? Yeshua left God and came to earth to appear to mankind. And what our Jewish people didn't realize is when Yeshua showed up in a flesh and bone and flesh and blood body and talked to them for 3.5 years, they didn't realize they were talking to the same person that their father Abraham was talking to. So the word says, I am your shield. David said of Yahweh, you are my shield. This is a Magen. It's not a star. It looks like a star, but it is called Magen David. They even make wine named Magen David.
Yes, they do.
It is a shield. It's 2 dallets that happen to look, when you put 2 triangles together, because the ancient dalet, one of the fonts, is 2 triangles, and when you put them together, they look like a star. That's not a coincidence either. Look up into the stars and see your offspring. Did not God tell Abraham that?
Yep.
And I just told a Muslim person yesterday, a dormant, non-religious Arabic person yesterday, that the gospel is in the stars. You can see it. If you understand, because this person said he likes to build a patio so he can go sit out and look up at the stars. I said, well, look for the gospel up there. It's up there. And after God told him that, Abraham enters into a blood covenant. And that is animals dying. And the threat of punishment if Abraham breaks the covenant. And God takes the threat off of him because God puts him to sleep. And then these two manifestations walk between the pieces and basically take the threat of the covenant, the breaking covenant, only on himself. And that's a tanur and a lapid, a smoking furnace, and a torch. Lapid represents resurrection. We know that because every Shabbat we light our lapidot to commemorate the resurrection of Yeshua on Saturday night. That's why I do it every week, because my faith hinges on death, burial, and resurrection of a man.
Excuse me.
Fire represents the very Shekinah, the manifest presence of God. And of course, Yeshua is the manifest presence of God. That's what Hebrews 1 through 3, 4, 5. You can even go all the way to 6 probably to get the whole thing. That's what he means. Yeshua is the manifest presence of God. So Yeshua goes through pieces and he takes sole responsibility for Abraham breaking the covenant, and in the very next chapter Abraham breaks the covenant. In the very next chapter. He's wooed by his wife to do so. Sarai wants something so bad, she says she knows adultery is wrong, and she wants something so bad. Well, God can use it. He could do it this way. And she puts her hand all in the big stuff, and she gives Abram her handmaid, and he commits adultery and has a child by it, creating fruit from Abraham in Egypt.
Yeah.
If you know the history, that's where we see a lot. That's what we see a lot of in our past religious lives. There are a lot of men who yield the spirituality to their wives, and they just do whatever wifey tells them to do. There's a lot of it. And in America, one of the reasons for that is because of the Industrial Revolution. I have to teach this every year, and it breaks my heart every time I get to it. Because men sold their farms, they lived in the city, they got jobs, and had to work 14 hours a day plus. So they had to leave the spirituality to their wives. And so men weren't taught. That boys didn't have an example of spiritual leadership in their homes. So whatever mommy did becomes whatever wifey says. Do you see that?
Yep. Look at him.
Men handed the authority over to their wives, and America entered back into harlotry, because before the Industrial Revolution, America was getting close to how we live. Some of them were actually keeping the Sabbath. All of them were trying to live a righteous life according to the Old and New Testaments. All of them. They did it in various different ways because it took them longer to study things out than it does today, and you know why. The messenger of Yahweh visits Hagar. She's the harlot who came with Abraham. Think about this. She was pushed into harlotry. She didn't volunteer for it. Did she?
Nope.
She was pushed into harlotry by the feminine side of the Abrahamic covenant. She bore a son, and he was blessed by God. Ishmael, God blessed him. He predicted stuff about him, but the boy himself he blessed. And yes, the boy himself entered into the covenant with Abraham. This harlot figures out that God both sees and hears her. Right? But because she doesn't stay faithful to the covenant herself, and neither does her son, then her children end up being a plague on mankind. And I actually had to put this in my notes because it was just too much all at once. I wish I could spend another hour peeling this onion, but I just don't have the time. There's so much there. And hopefully you're seeing a lot that I don't have to say.
We'll do it at lunch.
Okay. Hagar, I believe, is a type of, and Paul uses this over in the book of Galatians. He makes Hagar a type of something. All right? And I believe in our day and age, it is a type of the community of faith that are Gentile, that have joined the covenant of Abraham, that were pushed into harlotry, were they not? Most people today who are believers, they don't know why they do what they do in their faith. They don't know why they do it. And that Middle Eastern person that I was talking to yesterday, he was shocked because he's reading our Bible. And he was shocked because he said every Christian I talk to, they say they don't read it. That's him saying it, not me. They don't understand it. Hagar was of Egyptian origin. So is the variety of faith that most people practice today in America. Hagar was married into Abraham's family and produced fruit there. So did the variety of faith. Right, so do you see that I'm not condemning Hagar? Eventually, that offspring is disobedient and troublesome. Guess what? Ishmael picked on Isaac, not the other way around. Isaac is us. We are in the covenant of Abraham. We're doing what God said to do. We're walking in the footsteps of our father Abraham, and we're getting picked on by Hagar's descendants. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yes.
They aren't part of the same Abrahamic covenant. But they don't realize that the promise belongs to Isaac and Jacob and Judah and David and Yeshua. Are you with me? And God told both Zechariah and Miriam, or let me say it this way. Zechariah and Miriam both said, because of John the Baptist and Yeshua, that the covenant of Abraham is remembered through these two men. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
In chapter 17, God renews the covenant because Abraham has been disobedient. And he has created this group of people that are going to harass his own children. His children, his house is basically divided. And it's Ishmael and Isaac. And today, it's Arabs and Jews. They're brothers. Some of them know that. I have met, let me say it that way, I have met multiple Muslim people, and they immediately acknowledge that we are brothers, and they are friendly. If they're not militant Islamists, then they know what the truth of it is, and they're friendly, and they treat me like a brother because I'm Jewish. I've been to Israel, and my Muslim brothers that I met there are Muslims or Arabs that live in Israel and love living there. I have met them. I know it's the truth. And they love us. But the vast majority of them don't. So God is renewing a covenant because of what Abraham did in chapter 16, in chapter 17. And here you have a picture of God giving both Abraham and Sarah his spirit, his breath. And it's interesting to me they don't break the covenant again after this. Avram is renamed Avraham. So God takes Avram, and here are the letters, Aleph, Bet, Resh, and Mem Sofit. He takes that name and he simply adds a He to it. Avraham. So between the Resh and the Mem, between the prince and the people, he puts his breath.
Love it.
You see that?
Yes.
He adds to Abraham the spirit.
Yes.
Now he is not Avram, a father, a great father. Now he is Avraham, a father of a multitude. That's the fifth letter. He is the fifth letter. 5 is the number of the Torah. There are 5 books in the Bible. The 10 Commandments are a double of 5. I just taught you about a double, and you're hopefully beginning to understand the significance of doubles. He is breath. It's the beginning of the word hine, and that's what he means, is behold, see. And it also is breath. It's spirit. So God put his spirit into Abraham's name. In this passage, there are 2 instances of that. Let me say it this way. There are 2 places where God did that. God breathed onto Adam and he became man. God breathed into Abraham and he became a covenant-keeping person. Are you with me?
Yes.
In the creation, God took something from Adam, which was his rib, right? But here God is adding spirit back to Abraham, who is the son of Adam. But according to Sarah, Sarai was her original name. Shin Resh Yod. God takes the hand away from Sarah. What did she do? Remember what I said? I said it very specifically. She got her hand all in it. Power, manipulation, bending the will of the husband to get something that she wanted. God took that away from her and instead gave her spirit. And that's the way a godly wife is supposed to operate. Not through manipulation and spiritual deceit and rebellion, but if the husband needs to be fixed, that she prays, right? And only that, right? Right. That's 2 instances of God adding to people. But here, he replaced her hand with his breath.
So good.
So God is enabling them to keep the covenant. They never break it again. And that's exactly what Ezekiel said about the renewed covenant.
Yes.
I will put my ruach within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my ordinances and do them. And that's exactly what God said about Abraham in Genesis 26 to Isaac his son. Abraham kept my statutes, my decrees, and all of my laws.
Yes.
You know, they weren't written down, but I told you Shem was teaching them and Abraham was teaching them. And now he begins to keep them because he's part of his covenant is complete. In concerning the circumcision in this same chapter that is the covenant, the sign of the covenant, it happens in a hidden place. Y'all know what I'm talking about? and our hearts are hidden, they can't be seen by people. That's what is supposed to be circumcised. Our hearts are supposed to be circumcised, just like Jewish boys are supposed to be circumcised on the 8th day of their lives. Catch this. The Father is the one doing that. The Father does the circumcision on an innocent child who has no will about hurt me and bring me into this covenant. Do you realize that? How many of you have seen the process of circumcision? I have seen it, and that baby is crying. I've seen a few. We had one boy, he's gone now, he died. We had one boy who could do it, and the baby would just...
Yes, Mom.
I don't know what he did. Every single time, our own grandson, every single time. But most of the time they cry. And the point is, the Father is the one who is bringing the Son into the covenant. You see the imagery there?
Yeah.
Because you guys know we entered into a covenant with God through circumcision of the heart. Grown men who are Jews who are uncircumcised, and that can happen. Dad just didn't care. Dad left mom. The baby was born. You get my point? That person should circumcise himself when he comes to realize that he needs it. Right? However, a grown Gentile man who comes into the covenant through Yeshua better not circumcise himself. Because it means he's counting on his flesh. And Paul said, do not do it. Because that was the issue that he was putting down in Galatians. He wasn't putting down keeping the Torah. He was putting down counting on your own flesh to save you. That includes DNA gospel like Hebrew roots and two-house stuff. And that includes Jewish gospel, if you will, of saying that you're saved by doing circumcision. You can't come into the kingdom unless you're circumcised. That's the Abrahamic covenant. That's if you're a Jew. However, if a Gentile man comes into the covenant of Abraham and he has a son, he should circumcise him. Because he is no different than the Jewish man who's in this covenant.
Right.
Did that make sense for everybody?
Yes. Very good.
It happens on the 8th day. That's a new creation. The 8th day of the world week is when the new creation happens. So this covenant of circumcision was blood and spirit together. Because God added to Abraham's name, God changed Abraham. Do you see that?
Yes.
God doesn't arbitrarily rename people. He did it for a purpose.
Yes.
He added to Abraham what he needed. He's no longer Avram. You're no longer part of your past. You're a new person. It is a picture of the gospel.
Yes.
And so blood and spirit together brought him into righteousness. Do you see that?
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
And we are sealed by blood and spirit. We are redeemed, purchased by his own blood. Hebrews 9, verses 12 through 14. We obtain redemption. We are gifted righteousness because of our trust that Yeshua, a human being, the Son of God, shed his blood on our behalf. And then we are sealed. Let me back up a little bit. I'm getting too excited.
Me too.
Our conscience is purified by that blood.
Yeah.
So we don't have to come before God all guilty. We don't have to guilt each other into doing what God wants us to do. And I hate that in the Messianic community. People going around. Because of that blood, we can enter into the most holy place in existence, the throne room of God, because of the blood that Yeshua shed. And you don't have to be circumcised in your flesh in order to do that. Ephesians 1, 13 and 14 says, we are sealed by the Ruach. And I said, blood and spirit. We are sealed by the Ruach against the day of judgment. so that we can obey. 2 Corinthians 1, verses 21 and 22. He has sealed us by putting his ruach in our hearts as a pledge, just like he did with Abraham. He changed us. That's why we give new names here to people. And I don't know if they're going to live on with them in eternity, but it's symbolic of the fact that you are, especially if someone goes through the process that we ask people to go through to become part of us, especially they go through the bar mitzvah course, they do the basics, that little 6-video series, they go through that. If they want to stop there, they can, but I prefer that people go on and do the bar mitzvah course, but they don't have to, especially if they've been bar mitzvah. We have 2 boys here that have been bar mitzvah. They're not here today. So we will never ask them to do that. They've already done it.
Yeah.
They believe in Yeshua. They did it under messianic auspices.
Yes.
Are you with me? But not everybody grows up that way.
Right.
And so grown-ups are doing the bar mitzvah course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they stand here and confess. If they don't go that far, they go through the basics of the faith, that 6-video series, and then they stand here and confess, and that's when they can read from the Bible. Right? After making sure that they understand it, they've done it. You know what I mean? We have to do that.
Right.
And because we haven't been able to do it in the past, we haven't been able to fill the people out. And that's sad. Because then they leave because they realize, I don't believe what you believe. That's sad. It's very basic, though. 6 videos is not hard to watch. Might be because I'm the star of the show, I guess, but it's not completely inpalatable. Our seal is eternal. And our circumcision is permanent. A Jewish earthly circumcision is temporary. That body dies.
Yeah.
And that goes away. The circumcision of the heart is seen at the beginning of eternity.
Yes. Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
And finally, it's the promise to all nations, not just one group of people. God said to Abraham way back in Genesis. The promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed. That seed is Messiah, Galatians 3:16. Abraham sees global redemption through Yeshua. And so here's a little bit more of some gematria from Noah. So look at the stars. So shall your seed be. And like I said, Galatians just told us that seed is Yeshua. Star is Kochav. You guys know that. A star will come out of Jacob. Kochav has a value of 48. Abraham is 248. And Abraham's seed shines through Messiah. So Abraham, you have to see Yeshua through Abraham. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what the world preaches. They don't. Very rarely does anybody mention Yeshua through Abraham when they preach the gospel. Peter did. Paul did. Stephen did. They all did. It's an Abrahamic gospel.
Come on. Yeah.
So, fear not. I'm your shield and your exceedingly great reward. So we're not wandering. We're not orphans. We are the stars. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I wasn't going to. I'm going to do it anyway. So I got out of the Navy. I had my little house up on the lake before I met Melanie, and I was standing out there just thinking about what am I going to do with my life because I had no idea what to do. And I'm standing out there looking up at the sky, and I had never once in my whole life ever seen a falling star, a shooting star. I'd never seen one. And I'm standing there praying, and I'm talking to God. And I said, what do you see when you look at me? And all of a sudden, I didn't hear a voice or anything. I didn't see lights or anything. It wasn't this brand thing. But all of a sudden, I just had a realization. Abraham's standing there looking at the stars and saying, there's your children. And I realized, and I said, well, which one is mine? Where am I? and all of a sudden, my eyes fixed on this one star. I don't know where it is. I can go back to that spot, I suppose, in June, and I'll probably figure it out. But I don't know which one it is. But I just saw it, and I got fixated on it, and then all of a sudden, the shooting star went across. We belong to a wider tapestry. We're sealed by the blood and the Spirit in an everlasting covenant. And yes, we're going to stumble just like Abraham did, just like Sarah did. We have to remember to take our hands out of it. We have to remember that He has put His Spirit in us. We have to look up. Every soul that we lead to Yeshua, we have to realize we're trying to get them to the open hand of the King of the universe. Yeah. Are you with me?
Yes.
And that same guy that I was talking to yesterday, he said, pray for him. Sweet little guy, looks just like Danny DeVito. Pray for him because he's at the precipice. He's had to make a decision. He literally said that yesterday. What about people like me? I can't tell you the whole story. We'd be here forever. I tried to tell it to Melanie last night. But I said, well, it's the job of those of us who have been made righteous to appeal to you guys and bring you into light. Have you make the decision? And I explained to him there's three groups of people. Those who decide to be wicked and they don't want God. Those who are laissez-faire about it and they sort of give God a nod. And then those who want to live in utter righteousness because of the blood of Yeshua. And I told him, I said, it's our job to get you there. So I don't know what's going to happen. So, we're twice blessed, we're twice called, right? We leave our old country of doubt. We go to the land of promise. It's not biological, it's spiritual, and it's eternal. And if we obey, that is light, and that is what touches people, that is what warms people, that's what shines on people. It's not us being gooey. I used to love the phrase sloppy agape because I can't stand fakeness. I can't stand people that just put on this, oh, I love you show. I hate that.
Yeah.
Genuine compassion. Genuine. Being real with people. Being obedient in spite of the fact that you know you're a goober yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Walk boldly. God who multiplied the stars from one man's faith will multiply nations from us. I mean, as we were standing there doing the blessing, and I don't know why this happened, but that's one of my favorite moments when we bless those kids.
Right.
And today, for some reason, I've just rushed through my mind. It's like the video just streamed by of all the children, many children that we've blessed in that circle for the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
And when kids stand there for every last one, I don't know if you can see me, and I'm not asking you to, and I'm not bragging about it, but I try to look at the kids and impart whatever we can impart to them. on those kids for their protection, so that at some point in their life they will live the gospel.
Yes.
That's why God tells us, Lekh, go for yourself. Walk in that double blessing, okay?
Good.